The strength test machine flashed 87 units, nearly triple the safety limit. Every alien in the gym recoiled, expecting chaos and destruction. But Marcus Thompson, Earth's lone human, didn't explode. He asked for controlled increments. When he lifted 40 units with perfect discipline, their fear turned to awe. What they thought was brute force was actually masterful control. This moment shattered galactic preconceptions about humanity forever. The transport door hissed open. Marcus Thompson stepped onto Galactic Academy soil alone, one human representative among thousands of alien species. His translator implant immediately filtered the ambient chatter. Phrases like Deathworlder and dangerous humans cut through the background noise. They came from beings with tentacles that moved like underwater plants and others with skin that reflected light like polished metal. Principal Zara's recorded warning played on loop through the hallway speakers. All students maintain standard interspecies distancing protocols. The message didn't mention humans directly, but the implication hung in the air. Every alien student understood the subtext. They'd all seen the bulletins about Earth's classification. They knew the statistics about atmospheric pressure, surface gravity, and planetary predators. The architecture itself seemed to reject human presence. Doorways stood 3 meters high with multiple entrance points. Staircases had irregular step heights and handrails positioned for limbs that didn't match human anatomy. Windows displayed alien constellations Marcus couldn't recognize. The building materials shifted texture underfoot, sometimes feeling like stone, other times like something organic. A group of silicon-based life forms crossed the courtyard. Their crystalline structures refracted light into rainbow patterns as they moved. When they spotted Marcus, their patterns shifted to dull grays. They altered their path to give him 7 meters of clearance. Another student with feather-like appendages folded them tightly against its body as he passed. The message was clear even without words. The walk to the main building stretched longer than the distance warranted. Each step took Marcus past biological adaptations evolution never produced on Earth. Beings that floated rather than walked. Creatures that communicated through color shifts in their skin. Some had multiple eye stalks that tracked his movement with obvious anxiety. Others emitted low-frequency vibrations that his translator flagged as distress signals. Every whispered comment added weight to his shoulders. That's the human from Sol 3rd. They say his planet has unstable tectonics. Their atmosphere contains reactive elements. The words weren't meant for his ears, but the translator caught them all. Each remark built the pressure higher. He wasn't just a student anymore. He was Earth's only representative. Every action would be scrutinized. The gymnasium doors appeared at the corridor's end. Massive titanium alloy construction with pressure seals around the edges. They stood twice Marcus's height and showed signs of modification for various physiologies. Handprints of different shapes and sizes marked the access panel. Some were clearly not made by anything resembling human hands. Marcus paused before the entrance. This wasn't just another facility. This was where capabilities would be measured, where assumptions would be tested, where the Deathworld label would either be confirmed or dismantled. He took a measured breath and placed his hand on the scanner. The door slid open to reveal the strength testing area. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward the entrance. Multiple sets of pupils dilated or contracted in unison. The room fell quiet except for the hum of alien machinery. Every species in that room watched the human step across the threshold. They were waiting to see what a Deathworlder could do. The gymnasium chamber spread out before Marcus like a gallery of alien engineering. Equipment stood in organized formations, each piece designed for physiologies nothing like human. Some machines had multiple stations for limbs that could operate independently. Others featured restraints for bodies that didn't maintain consistent shapes. The air hummed with energy fields and subtle vibrations that felt unnatural against human skin. The strength testing machine dominated the center of the room. A massive structure of polished metal and glowing interfaces rose 3 meters tall. It featured 7 different gripping surfaces arranged at angles impossible for human shoulders. Safety barriers of shimmering energy fields surrounded the platform, ready to contain catastrophic failures. Control panels displayed readings in alien script that shifted as students approached. Teacher Vel gestured toward the apparatus. The instructor's slender limbs moved with precise economy. Standard strength assessment protocol. The system will calculate your load capacity based on physiological scan. Vel watched Marcus with compound eyes that reflected multiple angles simultaneously. The machine's sensors activated without sound. A blue light swept Marcus from head to foot. The scan took 3 seconds. Readings flashed across the main display in Galactic Standard units. The number 87 appeared in bold crimson numerals. A safety alarm pulsed through the chamber. The system's voice announced, "Capacity exceeds safety parameters" in flat tones. Red barrier fields intensified around the testing platform. Alien students drew back from the machine. Tentacles retracted into protective coils. Feathery appenders flattened against bodies. A collective murmur spread through the room like energy discharge. They'd never seen anyone trigger the upper limit protocols. The safety maximum was set at 30 units for all registered species. This human nearly tripled that threshold. Chrome's metallic skin shifted from silver to dull gray. The alien surface reflected the anxiety in the room. Patterns of unease moved across chrome plating like heat distortion. Several other students emitted low-frequency vibrations that resonated through the floor plates. They expected structural failure, flying debris, emergency containment procedures. Teacher Vel moved toward the emergency shutdown controls. All 4 hands rose toward different panels. Assessment suspended. System cannot guarantee integrity at calculated capacity. The instructor's voice remained calm but carried underlying tension. Protocol demanded termination of any test exceeding safety limits by more than 50%. This far exceeded those parameters. Marcus studied the display, then the safety barriers. He calculated the energy field density, the structural reinforcements, the clearance protocols. What about incremental testing? Set it to 40 units with full containment active. His voice cut through the nervous vibrations. He kept his posture relaxed, hands visible. No sudden movements. The room fell silent. Alien eyes focused on the human who proposed compromising with safety systems. They expected demands for maximum performance, not careful calibration. Teacher Vel paused, all 4 hands hovering near shutdown controls. The instructor's compound eyes refocused on Marcus. Explain your proposed parameters. Progressive loading. Start at 40% of calculated capacity. Maintain all safety protocols. Abort if any system shows strain. Marcus gestured toward the display where the number 87 still glowed. The machine can handle 40 units. Your safety systems can handle 40 units. Let's prove both statements true. Teacher Vel considered for 3 seconds. Alien students watched the silent exchange. Chrome's metallic surface began shifting from gray to hesitant silver. The tension in the room transformed from fear of disaster to curiosity about control. Vel's upper right hand moved from the emergency shutdown to the manual override panel. The instructor input the new parameters. The display changed from crimson warning to amber readiness. 40 units glowed steadily. The safety barriers intensified to maximum density. All secondary systems reported optimal conditions. Every alien in the room focused on the human stepping toward the testing platform. They were about to witness either controlled demonstration or catastrophic failure. Marcus stepped onto the testing platform. The machine adjusted to his human proportions with mechanical precision. Gripping surfaces reconfigured to accommodate his hand shape and shoulder width. The energy barriers hummed at maximum intensity around him. Whispered concerns about safety protocols and structural integrity reached his ears through the translator. He ignored them, focusing instead on the weight settings. The system settled at 40 units. The display glowed steady amber. This was still 33% above the previous Academy record. No student from any registered species had attempted this weight. The machine's internal stabilizers engaged with a deep thrum that vibrated through the floor plates. Secondary safety systems reported optimal conditions. All systems were ready for the test. The room fell completely silent. Alien respiratory systems stilled. Appendages stopped moving. Every student watched the human who dared challenge their safety limits. They expected violent strain, screaming metal, emergency shutdowns. Their experiences told them strength meant explosive power barely contained. They braced for the chaos that always accompanied extreme capability displays. Marcus positioned his hands on the primary grips. His back remained straight, shoulders set in perfect alignment. He engaged his core muscles with deliberate tension distribution. His movements showed no rush, no dramatic preparation. Every motion followed a calculated pattern of biomechanical efficiency. He took one controlled breath and initiated the lift. The weight rose without hesitation. The ascent was smooth, constant, perfectly controlled. There was no jerking motion, no uneven acceleration. The machinery reported ideal force distribution across all load points. Strain sensors detected no dangerous pressure spikes. The energy barriers remained at steady intensity, containing nothing but controlled motion. Marcus's face showed no strain. No veins bulged in his neck. His breathing remained even and measured. Only his forearm muscles showed defined tension patterns. His eyes stayed focused on a fixed point ahead, maintaining spinal alignment. The display of pure concentration was more startling than any show of brute force. This wasn't struggle, it was mastery. Chrome's metallic skin flickered through a rapid color sequence. Silver shifted to blue, then to green, finally settling on a deep bronze pattern that resembled flowing lava. The alien surface reflected not anxiety but something entirely new. The shifting patterns organized into symmetrical formations that the cultural database later identified as signs of respect. Chrome's eye stalks focused on Marcus with intense interest. Buddy emitted a low-frequency rumble that vibrated through the chamber floor. The bear-like alien's fur bristled with apparent excitement. His large paws made approving gestures in the air. The rumbling contained harmonic patterns that translated as enthusiastic approval. Other students glanced at Buddy, then back at the human performing the impossible with calm precision. The lift completed its full range of motion. Marcus held the weight at peak position for 3 seconds. The controlled pause demonstrated absolute command over the mass. He then lowered the weight with the same perfect control. The descent matched the ascent, smooth even, without tremor or instability. The machinery settled back into neutral position with a soft hydraulic sigh. The energy barriers deactivated. The display switched from amber to green. Complete success. No system reported any strain or anomaly. Marcus stepped off the platform, his breathing only slightly elevated. The alien students remained motionless, processing what they'd witnessed. Their expectations of destructive power had been replaced by evidence of disciplined control. Teacher Vell approached the console, all 4 hands moving across different displays. The instructor checked the biomechanical data, the force distribution charts, the safety system logs. Every measurement confirmed the same thing. This wasn't just strength. This was precision engineering of human capability. The instructor's compound eyes refocused on Marcus with new appreciation. The assessment would require entirely new parameters. The gymnasium remained completely still after Marcus stepped off the platform. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sounds were the low hum of machinery and the subtle ventilation systems. Alien eyes tracked Marcus as he moved away from the testing apparatus. Their postures shifted from defensive readiness to cautious observation. The expectation of violent failure had been replaced by evidence of something far more controlled. This wasn't the explosive power they'd been warned about. This was precision engineering of physical capability. Students glanced at each other, their various methods of silent communication creating a subtle network of reassessment. Tentacles uncoiled slowly. Feather-like appendages relaxed from defensive positions. Skin textures normalized from threat patterns to neutral states. The tension in the room transformed from fear of disaster to curiosity about control. They were watching a complete recalibration of their understanding of human capability. Chrome moved forward with deliberate steps. The metallic alien surface reflected the changed atmosphere in the chamber. Instead of anxiety patterns, Chrome's skin showed organized geometric formations. The shifting colors settled into a stable bronze hue with symmetrical patterns. Chrome stopped 2 meters from Marcus, maintaining respectful distance but showing clear intent to communicate. The alien's eye stalks focused with analytical precision rather than fearful tracking. Buddy broke the remaining tension with a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through the floor. The bear-like alien moved forward with unmistakable enthusiasm. His massive paw clapped Marcus's shoulder with careful control of force. The impact was firm but measured, showing both strength and restraint. Buddy's rumbling contained harmonic frequencies that translated as genuine approval. Other students watched the physical contact with renewed interest. They were seeing interspecies interaction they hadn't believed possible. Whispers began circulating through the chamber. The translator picked up the change in content immediately. Words like dangerous and unstable disappeared from the conversations. New terms emerged: remarkable control and precision and calculated power. The tone shifted from warning to analysis. Students discussed biomechanical efficiency rather than potential threat. They compared Marcus's performance to their own species' capabilities with newfound respect. Teacher Vel approached the main console, all four hands moving across different displays. The instructor pulled up performance data from the test. Biomechanical readings showed perfect force distribution. Energy output measurements indicated consistent controlled expenditure. Safety system logs reported zero anomalies or strain indicators. Vel's compound eyes focused on the data streams, processing information that contradicted all Academy records. This performance exceeds documented parameters for any registered species, Vel announced. The instructor's voice carried through the silent gymnasium. The safety system's initial refusal appears excessively conservative based on demonstrated control capability. The assessment wasn't praise, it was factual analysis. But the implications were clear. Their safety protocols had been designed around assumptions that no longer held. Students exchanged looks that conveyed understanding without words. Their fear of human capability began transforming into respect for human discipline. The Deathworld narrative started crumbling under the weight of evidence. They weren't looking at a dangerous primitive anymore. They were looking at a being who had mastered his environment through control rather than domination. The shift in perception became visible throughout the chamber. Postures relaxed. Defensive positioning gave way to open observation. Several students moved closer to examine the testing equipment, checking the readings for themselves. They wanted to verify what they'd witnessed. The data confirmed everything: perfect control, optimal efficiency, zero safety compromises. Teacher Vel gestured toward the far end of the gymnasium where the obstacle course stretched across the training area. Proceed to adaptive mobility assessment. The course evaluates species-specific talents and problem-solving approaches. The instructor's tone remained neutral, but the implication was clear. They were moving from raw strength testing to specialized capability evaluation. This would test whether human adaptability could match alien specialization. Marcus turned toward the obstacle course. The complex arrangement of moving platforms, energy barriers, and variable gravity zones represented challenges designed for non-human physiologies. This wasn't about strength anymore. This was about whether a generalist from Earth could compete with specialists from across the galaxy. The alien students watched him study the course, their previous fear replaced by genuine curiosity about what would happen next. The obstacle course stretched across the training area, like a demonstration of alien engineering principles. Moving platforms shifted in three-dimensional patterns. Gravity zones created pockets of variable weight. Energy barriers pulsed with contained power. The entire arrangement emphasized specialized capabilities over raw strength. This was where each species' unique adaptations would prove their value. Alien students began their attempts with natural ease. A being with multiple limbs navigated the moving platforms without breaking rhythm. Its extra appendages provided perfect balance and constant contact points. Another student with natural adhesive properties scaled vertical surfaces effortlessly. Its limb pads created secure attachments to any material. A third alien phased through energy barriers using molecular vibration techniques. Each specialist demonstrated what evolution had crafted for their specific world. Marcus watched from the observation line. He possessed none of these specialized adaptations. No extra limbs for complex balancing, no adhesive properties for climbing, no molecular vibration capability for bypassing barriers. The course presented challenges designed around physiological advantages he didn't have. Other generalist species struggled visibly, their attempts ending in early failures or safety interventions. He studied the entire course with analytical precision. His eyes tracked the moving platforms, noting their oscillation patterns. He observed the gravity zones cycling through intensity changes. The energy barriers pulsed with predictable frequency intervals. After 3 complete observation cycles, he identified the underlying system. Every obstacle followed a 12-second timing pattern across all systems. The moving platforms returned to starting positions every 12 seconds. The gravity zones cycled through minimum intensity at 12-second intervals. Energy barriers dropped to lowest resistance at the same timing. The entire course operated on a coordinated clock cycle. This wasn't random chaos. It was programmed challenge with predictable parameters. Marcus moved to the starting position. He didn't approach this as a test of special abilities. He treated it as a coordination problem requiring timing and anticipation. His path required precise movement through 7 different obstacle types in specific sequence. Each movement needed to coincide with the 12-second cycle points. The first moving platform approached his position. He stepped onto it exactly as it reached the optimal angle. The platform carried him toward the first gravity zone. He jumped at the precise moment the zone reached its lightest setting. His trajectory carried him through the reduced gravity with minimal effort. He landed on the next platform as it rotated into perfect alignment. Energy barriers pulsed ahead. He timed his approach to coincide with their low-resistance phase. He passed through with careful body positioning to minimize contact. The barriers barely registered his passage. He moved toward the wall section without adhesive capabilities. His solution involved using momentum from the previous platform jump, combined with precisely timed pushes against surface irregularities. Each movement flowed into the next like components of mechanical system. He treated the course not as a series of obstacles but as coordinated machine. His movements synchronized with the equipment's cycling patterns. The 12-second intervals became his guide through the complex arrangement. He wasn't fighting the course, he was dancing with its rhythms. Alien students watched with growing fascination. They'd never seen anyone approach the course this way. Their methods relied on inherent capabilities overcoming challenges. Marcus's method used understanding and timing to work with the challenges. He made the complex course look simple through pure pattern recognition and execution. The professors observing from the elevated platform noted the unconventional approach. Their data screens showed perfect synchronization between Marcus's movements and system cycles. They saw someone solving problems through intelligence rather than specialization. This wasn't just physical performance, it was cognitive demonstration of adaptive thinking. They began adjusting their assessment parameters to account for this new approach to obstacle navigation. Marcus moved through the obstacle course with fluid precision. His movements showed no hesitation, no wasted motion. Each step connected to the next like components in a mechanical system. He used the 12-second timing pattern as his guide through the complex arrangement. The entire course became a coordinated sequence rather than individual challenges. This approach diverged completely from alien methods that relied on inherent physiological advantages. The zero-gravity segment required careful momentum management. Marcus entered the zone at the precise moment gravity reached minimum intensity. He used his initial jump to establish trajectory, then made small adjustments with body movements. His arms controlled rotation while his legs stabilized direction. He exited the zone with exactly the momentum needed for the next obstacle. Other species used natural adaptations for zero-gravity navigation. Some had internal gas bladders for buoyancy control. Others possessed specialized organs for gravitational sensing. Marcus used pure physics comprehension instead. Energy barriers pulsed with rhythmic intensity. Marcus timed his approach to coincide with their low-resistance phase. He passed through the barriers with minimal contact, using body positioning to reduce exposure. The barriers registered his passage as negligible energy transfer. Specialized aliens manipulated the barriers directly. Some altered their molecular vibration to match barrier frequencies. Others generated counter-energy fields for safe passage. Marcus simply understood the timing and moved accordingly. Moving platforms rotated in complex patterns across the course. Marcus treated them as stepping stones in a calculated sequence. He stepped onto each platform at the optimal point in its rotation cycle. His weight distribution maintained perfect balance throughout transfers. The platforms carried him toward his next objective without requiring extra effort. Species with multiple limbs used them for constant stability. Those with prehensile appendages maintained multiple contact points. Marcus used timing and anticipation instead. Professors watched from the observation platform with analytical focus. Their data screens showed the synchronization between Marcus's movements and system cycles. They noted the consistent 12-second pattern in his decision timing. The lead professor identified this as adaptive problem-solving rather than specialized capability. This approach represented a fundamentally different philosophy of obstacle navigation. It prioritized understanding systems over overcoming challenges through inherent advantages. Chrome observed from the course perimeter. The metallic alien surface reflected the pattern of Marcus's movements. Chrome noted the absence of any single extraordinary capability. Marcus possessed no adhesive properties for climbing. He demonstrated no energy manipulation for barriers. He showed no specialized balance organs for platforms. Yet he navigated the course with efficiency matching specialized species. Chrome's skin pattern shifted to analytical configurations normally used for complex system analysis. The performance demonstrated human versatility in stark contrast to alien specialization. Where other species evolved specific adaptations for specific environments, humans developed generalized problem-solving capabilities. This allowed them to handle diverse challenges through understanding rather than innate advantage. The obstacle course became a demonstration of cognitive flexibility, overcoming physiological limitation. Marcus completed the final sequence with the same controlled precision he'd maintained throughout. He stepped off the last platform exactly as the 12-second cycle completed. His breathing remained steady, his movements economical. The course hadn't required extreme exertion, only perfect timing and execution. He stood at the finish point as the system registered successful completion. Alien students watched with renewed understanding. They'd witnessed something beyond raw power or specialized ability. They'd seen intelligence applied to physical challenges. The Deathworld narrative continued its transformation into something more complex, more respectable. Human capability wasn't about brute force. It was about adaptable thinking applied to any situation. Teacher Vel gestured toward the endurance track at the far end of the training complex. Proceed to planetary survival assessment. 5 laps simulating extreme environmental conditions. The track stretched across simulated terrain that shifted between desert, mountain, and alien biomes. This would test survival capability across multiple planetary conditions. Where the obstacle course tested specific skills, this would test sustained adaptability under stress. The endurance track stretched across the training complex, a 5-lap circuit that simulated extreme planetary environments. Each lap introduced different lethal conditions designed to test species-specific survival capabilities. The track cycled through desert heat intense enough to melt certain alloys, thin air matching high-altitude mountain conditions, and variable gravity that shifted without warning. This assessment pushed aliens to their physiological limits. Challenging beings evolved for stable homeworld environments. Students began the test with determined focus. Each species approached the challenges according to their evolutionary advantages. Desert-adapted beings handled the heat lap with relative ease, but struggled when conditions shifted to thin air. High-altitude specialists excelled in oxygen-deprived segments but faltered under variable gravity. The constant environmental changes prevented any single species from maintaining consistent performance. They were specialists facing generalist challenges. Marcus moved through the shifting conditions with steady persistence. The desert heat felt familiar after Earth's extreme climates. His body's cooling systems operated efficiently, developed through evolution on a planet with temperature extremes. The thin air at altitude matched conditions he'd experienced in terrestrial mountain ranges. His cardiovascular system adapted to oxygen scarcity through practiced breathing techniques. The variable gravity required constant physical adjustment rather than relying on innate adaptation. Buddy ran beside Marcus through the first 3 laps. The bear-like alien's powerful frame handled the initial challenges with impressive stamina. His thick fur provided insulation against temperature extremes. His massive lung capacity managed the thin air conditions, but the variable gravity began taking its toll during the 4th lap. Buddy's physiology wasn't designed for constant gravitational shifts. His movements became less coordinated as the gravity fluctuations disrupted his natural rhythms. The final lap introduced combined stresses. Desert heat blended with thin air. Gravity shifted between heavy and light without pattern. Buddy's breathing grew labored. His powerful strides lost their smooth efficiency. At the 3/4 mark, the bear-like alien slowed to a stop. His massive frame trembled with exhaustion. The combined environmental stresses had reached his physiological limits. He stood panting, unable to continue under the simulated planetary conditions. Buddy turned to Marcus with effort. His rumbling voice carried clear through the environmental systems. Finish this for all humanity. The words weren't about competition anymore. They represented something larger, proof that humans could endure where specialists failed. The message carried weight beyond the immediate test. It acknowledged that Marcus represented more than himself in this moment. Marcus nodded once and continued forward. The environmental systems intensified their challenges. Heat waves distorted the air ahead. Oxygen levels dropped to critical minimums. Gravity shifted from crushing weight to near weightlessness within seconds. His movements adapted to each change through practiced adjustment rather than innate capability. This was the essence of human endurance, adapting to changing conditions through will and technique. Alien students watched from the observation platforms. They saw Marcus maintaining steady pace through environmental shifts that had defeated specialists. His performance demonstrated relentless endurance rather than explosive power. The Deathworld label gained new context through this display. Humans weren't just dangerous, they were persistent. They endured through conditions that would overwhelm specialized physiologies. The finish line approached through shimmering heat distortion. Other students remained scattered throughout the course, each struggling with environmental conditions outside their evolutionary adaptations. Marcus's consistent pace carried him toward completion, while others fought against their physiological limitations. The display wasn't about superiority, it was about versatility and survival capability. The environmental systems reached their maximum intensity setting. Heat, thin air, and variable gravity combined into the ultimate test of endurance. Marcus's breathing remained controlled despite the conditions. His movements showed fatigue but maintained efficiency. He was demonstrating the human capacity to endure extreme challenges through adaptation, rather than specialization. The finish line waited ahead, marking not just the end of a test but the beginning of new understanding. Marcus pushed forward through the final lap. Exhaustion weighted his limbs but didn't slow his pace. Buddy watched from the sidelines with other students who'd reached their limits. The bear-like alien's breathing remained heavy from his own efforts. His rumbling vocalizations carried encouragement across the distance. Every student understood Marcus represented more than himself in this moment. He carried the weight of human reputation with each step. The environmental systems intensified their challenges. Heat distortion made the air shimmer like liquid. Oxygen levels dropped to concentrations that would incapacitate most species. Gravity shifted between crushing force and near weightlessness without warning. These conditions would overwhelm any specialist adapted to stable environments. They were designed to test absolute limits of endurance capability. Alien observers tracked Marcus's progress with analytical focus. They expected even a Deathworlder to show breaking points. Their sensors monitored his physiological responses for signs of collapse. Heart rate remained elevated but stable. Breathing patterns showed control despite oxygen scarcity. Muscle fatigue registered within acceptable parameters. The data contradicted their expectations of human limitations. Marcus maintained steady rhythm through all 5 environmental shifts. His pace showed relentless consistency rather than explosive power. He adjusted to each new condition through practiced techniques rather than physiological advantages. The desert heat triggered efficient cooling responses developed on Earth. Thin air activated oxygen conservation methods honed at high altitudes. Variable gravity required constant balance adjustments through core strength. Other students remained scattered throughout the course. Each struggled with conditions outside their evolutionary adaptations. A desert specialist labored in the thin air segment. A high-altitude expert faltered under gravity fluctuations. Their performances confirmed the challenge of surviving outside native environments. They were watching proof that generalist endurance could outperform specialized capability. The finish line appeared through the heat distortion. Marcus's movements showed fatigue but maintained precision. His footfalls landed with consistent timing despite the changing terrain. His breathing pattern controlled oxygen consumption efficiently. The environmental systems reached their maximum combined intensity setting. This represented the ultimate test of survival capability. Alien observers expected performance degradation. Their data models predicted significant slowdown under these conditions. Marcus's pace remained unchanged. He moved through the extreme environment with the same measured rhythm he'd maintained throughout. The display wasn't about speed, it was about unstoppable persistence. The final meters passed under his feet. The environmental systems cycled through their last intensity peak. Marcus crossed the finish line with controlled breathing and steady posture. His completion time flashed on the display boards. It showed consistent lap times despite the varying conditions. This wasn't a burst of speed, it was sustained endurance. The gymnasium reacted with immediate response. Alien students expressed approval through their varied methods. Clapping sounds came from beings with manipulative appendages. Whistling frequencies echoed from respiratory systems capable of precise vibration. Chromatic skin displays showed patterns of respect across metallic surfaces. Buddy's deep rumbling conveyed enthusiastic approval that vibrated through the floor plates. The collective response represented interspecies acknowledgement of demonstrated capability. Fear had transformed into respect through witnessed performance. The Deathworld narrative continued its dismantling under evidence of disciplined endurance. Humans weren't just dangerous. They were persistently capable across diverse challenges. Teacher Vel recorded the performance data with all 4 hands moving across different consoles. The instructor noted the consistent pacing across all environmental conditions. This represented adaptability rather than specialization. The assessment would require new parameters for evaluating generalist species. Previous assumptions about human limitations needed complete revision. Marcus stood at the finish line, breathing deeply but controlled. He watched the alien students approaching with new expressions on their varied features. Their body language showed curiosity rather than caution. The transition from fear to interest was visible across dozens of different physiologies. They wanted to understand this demonstration of human capability. The group moved toward the cafeteria facilities. Conversations began forming around the endurance demonstration. Questions about human adaptability replaced concerns about human danger. The dialogue would crystallize the new understanding of what Earth's environment produced. This was no longer about survival reputation. It was about capability analysis. Students gathered around tables designed for different physiologies. Marcus took a seat at a human-compatible station. Alien eyes focused on him with analytical interest. Their previous misconceptions about Deathworlders now conflicted with the controlled performance they'd witnessed. The cafeteria became the setting for genuine interspecies dialogue. The cafeteria hummed with the sounds of dozens of species consuming nutrients through various methods. Marcus sat at a table designed for human proportions, the first time such furniture had been used in the Academy's history. Alien students gathered around him, their varied forms arranging themselves in careful semicircles. Questions came from multiple directions simultaneously. The translator filtered the overlapping inquiries into coherent streams. They wanted to understand what they'd witnessed in the gymnasium. The previous fear had transformed into analytical curiosity about human capabilities. Their misconceptions about Deathworlders now conflicted with the evidence of controlled performance. Chrome's metallic surface shifted through analytical patterns while posing questions about human evolution. Buddy rumbled inquiries about training methods. Other students asked about Earth's environmental conditions. They expected explanations of supreme physical prowess or specialized adaptation. Marcus's answers surprised them with their simplicity and variety. He explained that some humans could lift heavier weights than what he'd demonstrated. Others excelled at different physical disciplines. Some focused on endurance running across extreme distances. Others specialized in precision movements requiring fine motor control. The capabilities varied across individuals despite common evolutionary background. This concept of diverse specialization within a single species was unfamiliar to aliens who evolved along narrow adaptive paths. Marcus clarified that all humans developed under the same planetary conditions that created these abilities. Earth's gravity, atmosphere, and ecological challenges affected every human equally. The difference lay in how individuals responded to those conditions through training and discipline. This wasn't about innate superiority, but about cultivated capability. The explanation revealed something deeper than physical performance. It showed adaptive response to environmental pressure. The alien students processed this information through their various cognitive methods. Chrome's metallic surface shifted through complex patterns resembling data analysis. Buddy's rumbling took on thoughtful harmonics. Other students communicated through subtle color changes or posture adjustments. They were realizing that Earth's dangerous reputation masked a more significant truth about human adaptability. The Deathworld classification failed to capture the full scope of human capability. Their species could no longer assume humans were only dangerous. The controlled performance in the gymnasium demonstrated discipline rather than Yeman Bao Li. The endurance track showed persistence rather than destructive power. The obstacle course revealed intelligence rather than brute force. The conversations in the cafeteria were dismantling stereotypes that had existed for generations. They were witnessing the transformation of fear into understanding. The dialogue prompted fundamental rethinking of evolutionary potential. Alien species had always valued line specialization. developing specific adaptations for specific environments. Humans represented something different, generalist adaptability that could handle diverse challenges. This wasn't better or worse, it was simply another evolutionary strategy. The realization opened new possibilities for interspecies learning and cooperation. Marcus's explanations planted seeds for galaxy-wide redefinition of strength. Physical capability wasn't just about power output or specialized adaptation. It involved control, discipline, intelligence, and persistence. These qualities could be developed across species lines through proper training and mindset. The conversation transcended human capability to address universal potential for growth and adaptation. The cafeteria became a hub of interspecies exchange. Students shared their own capabilities and limitations. They discussed how different evolutionary paths produced different strengths. The fear that had characterized initial interactions transformed into mutual curiosity. They were building bridges of understanding where barriers of misconception had stood hours earlier. An academy announcement interrupted the conversations. The Grand Chancellor summoned all students and faculty to the main assembly hall. The message carried unusual urgency. Marcus's performance had apparently reached the highest levels of galactic leadership. The students rose from their tables, their various forms moving toward the assembly area. They understood this wasn't routine academy business. Something significant was about to be addressed at the galactic level. The transition from cafeteria to assembly hall felt different than previous movements through academy corridors. Alien students walked beside Marcus rather than maintaining cautious distance. Their postures showed companionship rather than apprehension. The conversations continued during the walk, questions shifting from human capabilities to galactic policy implications. They were witnessing history in the making, understanding that a student's gym class performance might change interstellar relations forever. The assembly hall filled with hundreds of species representatives. Their varied forms arranged themselves in designated sections, according to physiological requirements. The air hummed with translation fields and environmental adjustments. Grand Chancellor Xylos stood at the central podium, his crystalline structure reflecting the hall's lighting. Marcus sat in the human-designated section, alone but surrounded by alien students who now regarded him with different eyes. The Deathworld classification hung in the balance of this gathering. Every being present understood the significance of this special assembly. Chancellor Xylos's voice resonated through the chamber without amplification. His words carried the weight of galactic authority. We gather today to reevaluate fundamental classifications. The crystalline being's form shifted to address different sections of the audience simultaneously. Recent demonstrations challenged long-held assumptions about evolutionary development. The chamber remained completely silent. Hundreds of species waited for the official pronouncement. Earth is not a death world. The declaration echoed through the translation systems. Death worlds are environments where life barely survives. Earth represents something entirely different. Chancellor Xylos's crystalline facets refocused on Marcus's section. Humanity's homeworld is a forge world, an environment that refines life until capable of surviving anywhere. The statement hung in the air, challenging generations of interstellar classification systems. The Chancellor elaborated with precise terminology. Forge worlds produce species with adaptive capabilities rather than specialized adaptations. They develop resilience through environmental pressure rather than narrow evolutionary paths. This redefinition addressed the performance witnessed in the gymnasium. It explained the controlled strength, the obstacle course navigation, the endurance across multiple environments. The classification shift carried implications for hundreds of documented species. This reassessment necessitates the Universal Adaptation Initiative. Chancellor Xylos announced the program with formal declaration protocols. All member species will participate in cross-training and capability development programs. We will study Forge World methodologies for universal application. The initiative represented a fundamental shift in galactic education philosophy. It prioritized adaptable capability over specialized evolution. The chamber erupted in response. Approval manifested through varied species-specific expressions. Sonic vibrations of agreement filled the air. Light patterns of acceptance illuminated different sections. Physical gestures of support came from beings with manipulative appendages. The collective response transcended physiological differences. They recognized the significance of this evolutionary reassessment. Marcus's feat had reframed cosmic biology in real time. A student's gym class performance became the catalyst for interstellar policy change. The Deathworld misconception gave way to Forge World appreciation. This wasn't about human superiority. It was about recognizing different evolutionary strategies. The galaxy gained new understanding of adaptation potential. The assembly shifted from proclamation to implementation discussion. Chancellor Xylos detailed the initiative's structure: cross-species training facilities, adaptive capability research centers, evolutionary biology reassessment teams. Each component addressed the new understanding of Forge World development. The proposals received immediate endorsement from species representatives. Marcus watched the proceedings with quiet focus. He understood the significance of this moment. His performance hadn't been about demonstrating superiority. It had revealed alternative paths to capability development. The galaxy was embracing adaptability as a universal potential, rather than human exception. The assembly concluded with formal adoption of the new classification system. Earth's designation changed from Deathworld to Forge World in all galactic databases. The Universal Adaptation Initiative received full funding and implementation authority. Species representatives began immediate planning for cross-training programs. They recognized the value in developing adaptive capabilities alongside specialized evolution. Chancellor Xylos approached Marcus after the assembly. The crystalline being's form shifted to human-friendly proportions. Your demonstration revealed what our classification systems overlooked. We measured danger without understanding development. The acknowledgement carried the weight of galactic leadership. The initiative will study Forge World methods for universal benefit. School administrators joined the discussion. They presented Marcus with unprecedented opportunities arising from the reassessment. Their proposals involved special ambassador roles and research positions. The offers reflected his unique position as Forge World representative. They wanted to leverage his perspective for interspecies understanding. Marcus considered the proposals carefully. The ambassador role offered influence at the highest levels. The research position promised scientific discovery. Both opportunities recognized his demonstration's impact on galactic policy. They represented the practical implementation of the Universal Adaptation Initiative. The decision would shape his continued presence at the Academy. The administration office held 3 distinct personalities waiting for Marcus. Dr. Green represented the scientific division, datapads stacked before him. Teacher Vel stood with all 4 arms calmly positioned. Rex from the Interspecies Relations Department completed the trio. They presented a unified front of Academy leadership. The offers they carried would shape Marcus's future at the institution. Dr. Green activated a holographic display showing ambassador protocols. The Galactic Council requests your service as special envoy for interspecies understanding. The projection detailed travel schedules, diplomatic functions, and research opportunities. Your unique perspective as Forge World representative makes you ideal for bridging cultural divides. The position offered access to the highest levels of galactic government. It promised influence beyond standard academic achievement. Teacher Vel added practical considerations. The ambassador role involves extensive travel between member worlds. You would interface with scientific teams studying adaptive methodologies. The instructor's compound eyes reflected the seriousness of the offer. Your demonstration revolutionized educational approaches. This position leverages that impact for broader implementation. The opportunity represented the logical extension of his gym performance. Rex presented the interpersonal aspects. Your presence at diplomatic functions would normalize human-alien interactions. Previous misconceptions require visible correction at the galactic level. The interspecies specialist outlined meeting schedules with dozens of species representatives. The ambassador role transforms fear into familiarity. Through consistent positive contact, this addressed the deeper social implications of the Deathworld. Reassessment. Marcus considered the proposals carefully. The ambassador position offered unprecedented access and influence. It represented everything an interstellar scholar might desire. Yet the role conflicted with his original purpose for attending the Academy. He hadn't come for fame or diplomatic status. He came for education and genuine interspecies connection. The administration acknowledged this tension explicitly. Dr. Green stated their unanimous decision recognized his unique bridging capability. The board understands your value lies in authentic interaction, not ceremonial functions. Teacher Vel emphasized his continued classroom presence mattered most. Your friendships with Chrome, buddy, and others demonstrate the initiative's core principles. They weren't offering empty prestige. They sought to amplify what he'd already built. Rex presented the compromise solution. The ambassador role can integrate with your regular studies. We'll adjust travel schedules around academic commitments. The proposal showed understanding of his priorities. Your value as representative depends on maintaining ordinary student relationships. This addressed the concern about isolation from peer interactions. Marcus faced the fundamental choice between solitary fame and collective learning. The ambassador role promised individual recognition at the highest levels. Remaining as regular student maintained the friendships that had transformed galactic perceptions. One path led to diplomatic circles far from classroom interactions. The other kept him beside the beings who first saw past the Deathworld label. His decision came without hesitation. I'll remain at Galactic Academy as student first, ambassador second. The choice emphasized ordinary friendships over special status. It prioritized continued learning over immediate influence. The human value of connection outweighed the allure of isolated prestige. The administration accepted his terms without argument. They'd anticipated this response based on his demonstrated values. Dr. Green adjusted the holographic display to show integrated schedules. Teacher Vel noted classroom commitments would take priority over diplomatic functions. Rex began reorganizing meeting plans around academic calendars. The ambassador role would function alongside regular studies rather than replacing them. Marcus would attend classes with Chrome, share meals with Buddy, and participate in standard academy activities. His diplomatic functions would occur during designated periods that didn't disrupt educational progression. The compromise maintained his authentic student experience while fulfilling galactic responsibilities. This decision reinforced the initiative's core philosophy. Adaptive capability developed through daily practice, not theoretical study. Marcus's value as ambassador stemmed from genuine interspecies relationships. Isolating him from those connections would undermine the very understanding he represented. The integrated approach proved more effective than ceremonial separation. The administration departed to implement the new arrangement. Marcus returned to his quarters, considering the balanced path ahead. He would walk between worlds without leaving either behind. The ambassador role became an extension of his student experience rather than a separate existence. This approach honored the friendships that had made the transformation possible. Word of the decision spread through academic channels. Other students responded with approval of the integrated approach. They valued Marcus's continued presence in regular classes. His choice demonstrated commitment to the community that had embraced him. The ambassador role gained authenticity through its connection to daily academy life. Galactic institutions noted the compromise arrangement. They recognized the wisdom in maintaining Marcus's student status. His value as bridge between species depended on ongoing authentic interactions. Isolating him in diplomatic circles would have diminished his effectiveness. The integrated approach became model for future interspecies representatives. Galactic institutions responded to Marcus's demonstration with immediate interest. Universities restructured their adaptation studies departments. Think tanks initiated cross-species capability research projects. Government bodies allocated resources for human methods integration. The Universal Adaptation Initiative began implementation across dozens of worlds. Training protocols shifted from specialization development to adaptive capability cultivation. Educational philosophy embraced Forge World principles alongside traditional evolutionary approaches. Long-held assumptions about biological limits faced systematic challenge. Species previously confined by narrow evolutionary paths explored new potential. The concept of fixed physiological capability gave way to adaptable development. Training facilities incorporated variable environment simulations. Educational programs emphasized problem-solving over innate advantage. The galaxy-wide reassessment questioned generations of scientific consensus. Chrome discovered unexpected applications for his metallic enhancements. The alien's reflective surface could project complex light patterns beyond practical functions. Chrome developed artistic displays using precise skin modulation techniques. His capabilities served communication and creative expression alongside structural purposes. This expansion demonstrated how specialized adaptations could transcend their original evolutionary functions. Chrome's artistic performances became studied examples of capability diversification. Buddy explored combining strength with agility in new configurations. The bear-like alien's powerful frame gained precision movement through human training methods. He developed controlled applications of his natural power. Buddy's rumbling vocalizations gained melodic qualities through disciplined practice. His capabilities expanded beyond raw force to include nuanced physical expression. This transformation showed how generalist approaches could enhance specialized evolution. Spark studied crystalline energy interactions with renewed perspective. The alien's mineral structure responded to diverse energy types in unexpected ways. Spark discovered resonant frequencies that allowed energy channeling rather than simple deflection. His capabilities grew beyond defensive functions to include energy manipulation. This advancement demonstrated how reassessing inherent qualities could reveal hidden potential. Each outcome represented practical expansion of adaptation understanding. Capabilities weren't fixed by evolution, but could develop through cross-species learning. The initiative produced tangible results across multiple disciplines. Training facilities reported improved performance metrics. Educational institutions documented enhanced problem-solving capabilities. Research centers recorded breakthrough discoveries in adaptive methodology. The Universal Initiative reframed fear into curiosity across galactic society. Previously threatening differences became resources for mutual growth. Species shared unique capabilities without defensive posturing. The Deathworld misconception gave way to Forge World appreciation. Interstellar relations shifted from cautious coexistence to active collaboration. The galactic community embraced diversity as strength rather than danger. Previously isolated capabilities became shared resources through systematic exchange. Desert-adapted species taught heat management techniques. High-altitude specialists shared oxygen efficiency methods. Gravity-resistant beings demonstrated structural integrity principles. Each contribution enhanced the collective capability pool. The initiative created networks of mutual improvement across physiological boundaries. The transformation reached beyond academic circles into practical applications. Engineering teams incorporated adaptive principles into structural designs. Medical researchers applied cross-species knowledge to treatment protocols. Environmental systems adopted variable condition management techniques. The ripple effects touched every aspect of galactic civilization. Marcus's demonstration had triggered system-wide reevaluation of potential. Administrators began planning physical recognition of this transformation. The proposed center would embody the new philosophy of adaptive capability. It would serve as research facility, training ground, and symbolic representation of changed perspectives. The structure itself would incorporate principles demonstrated in the gymnasium. Its design would reflect the shift from fear to collaboration, from limitation to potential. The planning committee considered location, design specifications, and functional requirements. They wanted the facility to represent the initiative's core principles. Adaptive architecture would respond to different physiological needs. Variable environments would challenge multiple capability types. The center would serve as living demonstration of what cross-species collaboration could achieve. It would stand as permanent tribute to the day perceptions changed. The Marcus Thompson Center for Universal Adaptation rose from the Academy's central courtyard. Its architecture incorporated elements from dozens of species design principles. The structure stood as physical testament to the day galactic perceptions shifted. This facility embodied the transformation from fear to collaboration, from limitation to potential. Its very existence represented the new interstellar understanding of capability development. Construction involved cross-species engineering teams working in coordinated shifts. Desert-adapted beings handled high-temperature welding operations. Gravity-resistant species managed structural support installations. Energy-manipulating aliens calibrated the environmental systems. The collaborative building process demonstrated the center's core philosophy in action. Different capabilities became complementary rather than competitive. A polished titanium plaque marked the main entrance. Its inscription proclaimed dedication to unlimited potential in every being. The wording emphasized capability development over innate advantage. The plaque's material reflected light and patterns that all species could perceive. Its message transcended physiological differences to address universal aspiration. The original gymnasium underwent complete transformation. Its equipment now featured adjustable settings for diverse physiologies. Safety systems accommodated extreme capability demonstrations without unnecessary restrictions. The training area incorporated variable environment simulators across all stations. This physical space symbolized the larger cultural shift toward celebrating diversity through practical application. Marcus's favorite aspect remained unchanged: the everyday classroom spaces. While the center featured spectacular training facilities, he valued the standard learning environments more. The simple desks and discussion areas represented genuine interspecies exchange. The spectacular feats mattered less than the daily conversations that built understanding. The center formalized the belief that friendship and shared learning created real progress. Its research division studied human adaptive methods for cross-species application. Training programs developed capability through collaboration rather than isolation. The facility became living proof that mutual growth surpassed individual achievement. It functioned as primary hub for studying and applying adaptive methodologies. Research teams analyzed Marcus's gym performance data for universal principles. They identified timing patterns, control techniques, and environmental adjustment methods. These findings transformed into training protocols for all species. The center disseminated knowledge rather than hoarding advantages. The physical space reflected the new philosophy of collaborative discovery. Laboratories featured transparent walls to demonstrate research in progress. Training areas allowed observation and participation across species lines. Common spaces encouraged informal exchange between different physiological types. Every design choice emphasized openness and shared development. Administrators scheduled the center's operations around Marcus's academic commitments. His ambassador duties integrated with regular classroom attendance. He continued studying alongside Chrome, Buddy, and other students. His presence maintained the authentic interactions that had inspired the center's creation. The facility enhanced rather than replaced his educational experience. Galactic institutions adopted the center's methodology system-wide. Training facilities incorporated variable environment challenges. Educational programs emphasized adaptive problem-solving techniques. Research initiatives prioritized cross-species capability development. The physical structure became model for similar centers across member worlds. The center's impact reached beyond academic circles into practical applications. Engineering firms adopted adaptive design principles. Medical research incorporated cross-species biological insights. Environmental management systems implemented variable condition protocols. The ripple effects demonstrated how one facility could influence interstellar civilization. Marcus participated in the center's operations without seeking special status. He trained alongside aliens exploring their own adaptive potential. He shared human methods while learning other species' techniques. His presence maintained the center's connection to its origins in simple gym class demonstrations. The facility stood as permanent recognition of transformed interstellar relations. Its very existence proved that intimidation could become cooperation through demonstrated capability. The Deathworld misconception had given way to Forge World appreciation. The center embodied this shift in tangible form across its entire structure and function. Planning committees already discussed expansion projects. Additional wings would accommodate new research divisions. Satellite facilities were planned for other academic institutions. The center's success prompted galaxy-wide investment in adaptive capability development. What began with one human's performance became interstellar movement. The Marcus Thompson Center represented more than physical structure. It stood as symbol of what interspecies collaboration could achieve. Its laboratories, training areas, and common spaces all served the same purpose: unlocking potential through shared discovery. The center proved that friendship and learning could reshape galactic civilization. The galaxy's new narrative began positioning humans not as dominators, but as catalysts. Where once interstellar reports emphasized human aggression or territorial expansion, they now highlighted facilitation and cooperative innovation. Forging adaptability replaced exploiting superiority as the operative philosophy. Systems once designed to contain or monitor human activity were repurposed to study and integrate human methods. This was not a shift in power, but a recalibration of purpose. Old fears still lingered in isolated sectors. Traditionalist factions within certain planetary governments continued issuing warnings about human unpredictability. Security councils maintained contingency protocols for Deathworlder incidents. These reservations persisted despite mounting evidence to the contrary. The tension between documented reality and deep-seated apprehension created friction in diplomatic channels. Some species needed more time to accept the revised assessment of human capability. Human strength proved to lie in adaptive capacity rather than raw power. The ability to learn, adjust, and unite across radical biological differences became the defining characteristic. This was not about physical superiority but cognitive flexibility. Humans could operate in desert heat, thin atmosphere, variable gravity, and energy-dense environments through learned techniques rather than innate advantages. Their value came from bridging gaps between specialized species. This positioned humans as natural intermediaries in interstellar relations. They could translate between physiologies, environments, and evolutionary strategies. Their role became connecting disparate capabilities into functional systems. The future shifted from isolated specialization to integrated collaboration. Humans facilitated this transition through demonstrable examples of cross-species problem-solving. They turned potential conflict into cooperative opportunity. Marcus's friendships ultimately achieved what his feats alone could not. His continued presence in classrooms, his shared meals with Buddy, his technical discussions with Chrome, these ordinary interactions solidified the new narrative. The galaxy saw that human strength included loyalty, curiosity, and genuine connection. These qualities proved more convincing than any performance metric. The relationships built trust where demonstration alone might have only inspired caution. The story reinforced core human traits without exaggeration. Resilience appeared in their persistent adaptation to extreme environments. Strategic thinking manifested in their problem-solving approaches. Interstellar cooperation became their primary mode of operation. These characteristics aligned with galactic values while remaining distinctly human. They demonstrated that capability and compassion could coexist within a single species. The universe itself seemed to transform through this new lens. Dangerous phenomena became challenges to understand rather than threats to avoid. Unexplored regions offered potential discoveries instead of certain peril. The cosmic landscape shifted from hostile territory to field of infinite possibility. This mental recalibration affected exploration protocols, research initiatives, and diplomatic missions across known space. The Deathworlder label underwent final transformation into Forge World Ambassador. This was not merely semantic adjustment but conceptual revolution. Deathworlds implied inevitable destruction and unavoidable danger. Forge Worlds suggested refinement, capability development, and purposeful challenge. The new designation recognized the constructive aspects of demanding environments. It acknowledged that pressure could produce capability rather than just catastrophe. Marcus's integrated role as student and representative embodied this transformation. He continued attending standard classes while fulfilling ambassadorial functions. His dual status proved that extraordinary capability could coexist with ordinary interaction. The galaxy saw that human value lay in their ability to remain accessible despite their capacity. This accessibility became their greatest diplomatic asset. The transition point approached where galactic civilization would fully internalize these changes. The evidence continued accumulating across multiple sectors. Training facilities reported success with adaptive methods. Research centers documented breakthrough applications. Diplomatic channels showed improved interspecies cooperation. The cumulative effect was shifting galactic culture toward new understanding of potential. What began in a gymnasium was reshaping interstellar relations. Marcus's journey through the academy demonstrated how genuine connection could expand capabilities across species lines. His friendships with Chrome, Buddy, and others became examples of interspecies collaboration. These relationships showed that trust could achieve what isolated excellence never could. The gym class incident transformed from simple performance metric into interstellar legend. Training facilities across hundreds of worlds incorporated analysis of Marcus's methods. Educational programs used his controlled lift as example of discipline over brute force. The obstacle course navigation became standard study for adaptive problem-solving techniques. Traditionalist factions within certain planetary governments resisted the new philosophy. They maintained that specialization represented evolutionary perfection. Their security councils continued running Deathworlder contingency drills. These groups argued that adaptive methods could never match innate biological advantages. They viewed human influence as dangerous deviation from established scientific principles. Their opposition created political friction in interstellar relations committees. This resistance slowed implementation of cross-training programs in conservative sectors. The Universal Adaptation Initiative overcame opposition through demonstrable success. Training facilities reported measurable improvements in capability development. Research centers documented breakthrough applications of adaptive methods. Engineering teams incorporated cross-species design principles with positive results. These practical achievements gradually weakened traditionalist arguments. The evidence became too substantial to ignore or dismiss. System after system adopted the initiative's protocols based on performance metrics. Alien species began exploring their own untapped potential through human methods. Chrome developed artistic light displays using precise skin modulation techniques. Buddy combined strength with agility through disciplined training regimens. Spark discovered new energy manipulation capabilities through resonance studies. Each species found applications beyond their evolutionary specialization. They demonstrated that capability could develop through practice rather than remaining fixed by biology. This exploration expanded what entire civilizations believed possible. Fear of difference transformed into curiosity about collaborative potential. Security protocols shifted from containment to cooperation. Research initiatives prioritized shared discovery over isolated advancement. Diplomatic missions emphasized mutual benefit rather than advantage. The galactic community began viewing diversity as resource rather than risk. This mental recalibration affected exploration, education, and interstellar relations. The transformation reached from individual interactions to system-wide policy. The Deathworld misconception gave way to Forge world appreciation. Planetary classification databases updated their criteria and terminology. Security briefings emphasized capability analysis over threat assessment. Educational materials reframed human evolution as adaptive refinement. This conceptual shift changed how entire generations would perceive interspecies relations. The new understanding recognized that challenging environments could produce capability rather than just danger. Marcus continued his education while shaping interspecies understanding. He attended standard classes alongside alien students. His ambassador functions occurred during designated periods without disrupting studies. This integrated approach maintained the authentic interactions that had proven most valuable. His presence in ordinary settings demonstrated that extraordinary capability could coexist with normalcy. This balance became model for future cross-species representatives. The galaxy moved towards celebrating diversity as source of strength. Cultural events highlighted different species' unique capabilities. Research collaborations leveraged varied physiological advantages. Engineering projects incorporated multiple design philosophies. This approach produced innovations that single-species thinking never achieved. The galactic community discovered that difference could drive progress when properly channeled. The transformation continued gaining momentum through practical applications. Military organizations adopted adaptive training methods for improved readiness. Medical research integrated cross-species biological insights for better treatments. Environmental systems implemented variable condition protocols for enhanced stability. Each success reinforced the new philosophy's value. The cumulative effect reshaped interstellar civilization toward collaboration. Marcus's story became reference point for galactic change. His name represented possibility rather than peril. His friendships symbolized connection across physiological divides. His methods demonstrated the power of adaptable thinking. The gymnasium where everything changed stood as monument to transformed perceptions. Its equipment continued training generations in adaptive capability development. The legacy of that single performance continued influencing interstellar relations. The Universal Initiative expanded beyond academic circles into daily life. Common citizens adopted adaptive approaches to problem solving. Businesses incorporated cross-species teams for improved innovation. Communities celebrated physiological diversity through cultural exchanges. The transformation reached every level of galactic society. What began with controlled lifts and obstacle courses became way of interstellar life. The galaxy learned that strength could take many forms beyond physical power. Discipline mattered as much as capability. Intelligence could overcome specialized advantage. Persistence could outlast innate endurance. These lessons reshaped how civilizations viewed themselves and others. The Deathworld narrative finally gave way to more nuanced understanding. Humans became catalysts for progress rather than objects of fear. The strength test that began with fear ended with universal acknowledgement. Alien eyes watched human capability transform from perceived threat to demonstrated discipline. The performance proved human potential lies in controlled application rather than raw power. Adaptive intelligence overcame specialized physiological advantages. Collaborative relationships achieved what isolated capability could not. This moment redefined strength across galactic civilization. It demonstrated that friendship and cooperation expand any species' potential. Fear of difference gave way to appreciation of diversity. The universe gained a new understanding of what beings can achieve together. That day in the gym changed interstellar relations forever.